Don't be late to let go of your ego, embrace humility. In the fast-paced flow of modern life, many of us fail to realize that one of the greatest obstacles on our journey to find the meaning of life lies deep within ourselves, the ego. It is the inner voice that constantly whispers about what belongs to me, what is mine, and why I should be recognized. The ego not only clouds our vision but also pulls us away from inner peace. Think for a moment, have you ever felt hurt when you didn't receive the attention you expected? Or how many times have you tried to prove your worth by competing with others? These thoughts are not truly you, they are products of the ego. And it is the ego that binds us to the cycle of suffering, as taught by the Buddha in his teachings. In Buddhism, the ego, or ahankara in Pali, is the root of much suffering. It makes us cling to things that are not permanent, things that do not truly define our nature as human beings. The ego is the cause of greed, anger, and delusion, the three poisons that prevent us from attaining enlightenment and peace. The Buddha pointed out that only when we let go of the ego can we truly live in accordance with our true nature. But how can we let go? That is the question many seek answers to. Letting go of the ego doesn't mean losing our sense of self-worth, but rather learning to view ourselves from a more humble perspective, shifting our focus from me to things that matter more, love, gratitude, and forgiveness. In today's video, we will explore the ego and its impact on daily life. You will learn how to recognize when the ego is controlling your thoughts and actions. Why letting go of the ego not only helps you find happiness but also brings harmony to your relationships. 3 simple steps to embrace humility based on Buddhist teachings. The journey of letting go of the ego is a process that requires patience and determination. But don't let the ego delay you on your path to freedom and happiness. Remember, humility is not about devaluing yourself, it's about connecting with the pure, true essence of who you really are. Let's begin this journey together, discover the magic of humility, and open the door to a fuller, more meaningful life. Are you ready to let go of the ego to find true peace? If your answer is yes, continue watching this video and join us in the world of wisdom and tranquility. 1. The ego, the enemy of inner peace. The ego is one of the central concepts often discussed in Buddhist teachings. Not only is it the root of suffering, but it is also the greatest barrier preventing us from achieving inner peace. In this article, we will explore in detail the nature of the ego, its impact on our lives, and the methods the Buddha taught to transcend the ego, leading to a life of happiness and tranquility. What is the ego according to Buddhism? In Buddhism, the ego, or ahankara in Pali, is understood as the sense of I, mine, and me. It is the mistaken belief that there is a permanent, separate, and unchanging I. However, according to the doctrine of non-self, anatta, the Buddha taught that there is no truly independent self that exists. The ego is a product of ignorance, avidya, a state of not understanding the true nature of life. It is an illusion that causes people to cling to things that don't belong to them and to seek satisfaction from impermanent things, leading to suffering, dukkha. In simple terms, the ego is the inner voice that always seeks to protect and elevate its image. When the ego is inflated, it causes us to take excessive pride in our success and power. When the ego is wounded, it causes us pain, resentment, or offense when we are not acknowledged. The negative impact of the ego on inner peace. The ego is the greatest enemy of inner peace because it creates a long chain of negative emotional states, conflicts, and suffering. Below are some ways in which the ego disrupts our mind and life. Pride and excessive self-importance. The ego causes individuals to become proud, always wanting to show that they are better than others. For example, you may feel satisfied when you succeed, but this pride easily turns into hostility or competition when others outperform you. According to Buddhist teachings, pride is a form of delusion, moha, that clouds wisdom and compassion. The Buddha taught that all beings are equal in their true nature, and comparing or competing only disrupts the peace of the mind. Hurt and discontentment when not acknowledged. When the ego is not satisfied, such as when we are not praised or are criticized, it leads to feelings of hurt. We can easily become dissatisfied with others, which leads to resentment and suffering. A simple example: think back to a time when you were publicly criticized. You may have felt upset or even angry, even though the criticizer had no ill intentions. This is the ego speaking, because it attaches your value to external recognition. Attachment to the ego and fear of loss. The ego drives attachment and possessiveness, causing individuals to cling to possessions, reputation, or relationships. When these things are threatened or lost, we fall into deep suffering. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent, anicca. When we cling to things that are not lasting, the ego creates fear and anxiety, disrupting our peace of mind. How to let go of the ego. The Buddha taught many methods to help us transcend the ego and find inner peace. Below are 3 important steps. 1. Observe and recognize the ego. Learn to observe your thoughts and actions. Whenever you feel hurt, prideful, or anxious, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Is the ego controlling me? Recognizing the ego is the first step toward breaking free from its influence. 2. Practice compassion and humility. Cultivate compassion by viewing others as equals, neither superior nor inferior. Humility is not about devaluing yourself but understanding that we are all part of a larger connection. 3. Practice meditation and letting go. Meditation helps quiet the mind and allows you to realize that everything is impermanent. Practice letting go of negative thoughts, the need for recognition, and the fear of loss. The ego and true freedom. The ego is the greatest enemy of inner peace. It keeps our minds in a constant state of struggle, making us feel that we are never enough. However, when you recognize that the ego is an illusion and learn to let go of it, you will find true freedom and happiness. As the Buddha taught, there is no enemy outside stronger than the ego within. And there is no greater victory than conquering oneself. Start your journey of letting go of the ego today, and you will realize that inner peace is not far away, it always exists within your mind. 2. Why should we let go of the ego early? In life, the ego is like a shadow that always follows us. When we cling to the ego, we not only limit ourselves to suffering but also disrupt relationships, miss valuable opportunities, and waste time in unnecessary worries and competition. The Buddha's teachings point out that letting go of the ego is not only a wise action but also the path to happiness and inner peace. The ego and its impact on relationships. When the ego arises, we often place the I above everything else, leading to unnecessary conflicts in relationships with family, friends, colleagues, and society. Here are some negative impacts of the ego on relationships. Lack of empathy and understanding. The ego makes us want to assert our views, believe we are always right, and disregard the opinions of others. In Buddhism, this is called attachment to self, atta, clinging to the I and mine. When attached to the ego, we find it hard to listen and understand others, leading to rifts in relationships. Competition and selfishness. The ego fuels competition, comparison, and selfishness. Rather than supporting each other and growing together, we want to outdo others to prove ourselves superior. This not only hurts others but also causes us to lose valuable relationships. Loss of sincerity. A relationship can only be sustainable when it is built on sincerity and trust. However, the ego often clouds the truth and causes us to act dishonestly with our feelings. This can lead to misunderstandings and breakups. The Buddha's teachings. The Buddha once said, "Someone who clings to the ego is like a person holding a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else, the first one to burn is themselves." Only when we let go of the ego can we develop compassion, understanding, and form genuine connections with others. The ego and missed opportunities. The ego not only damages relationships but also prevents us from recognizing and seizing valuable opportunities in life. The ego hides the ability to learn. The ego makes us think we know enough or are better than others, causing us to refuse to listen or accept new advice or knowledge. The Buddha taught, the wise person is one who knows they do not know. If we don't let go of the ego, we may miss out on important lessons from those around us and life experiences. Procrastination and rigidity. The ego often causes us to stubbornly cling to old thoughts or methods, even when they no longer serve us. This delays our growth and causes us to miss opportunities for change and development. Loss of cooperation. In both work and life, no one can succeed alone. However, the ego makes it difficult for people to work in teams, accept others' opinions, and thus miss opportunities for cooperation and growth. The ego and wasting precious time. Time is an invaluable asset, but the ego causes us to focus on meaningless things, such as worrying about personal image. The ego causes us to be overly concerned with how others perceive us, leading to unnecessary stress and anxiety. We spend time proving ourselves, instead of living authentically and meaningfully. Constant competition. The competition to become wealthier, more powerful, or more prominent than others is a clear sign of the ego. However, the Buddha taught that fame, wealth, and power are all impermanent, anicca, and clinging to them only leads to suffering. Regret over the past and anxiety about the future. The ego prevents us from living fully in the present. We are often stuck in feelings of guilt and regret over past mistakes, or anxiety about things that have not yet happened. All of these emotions stem from clinging to the self. Buddha's teaching. Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment, for it is where true life exists. The benefits of humility and letting go of the ego. The Buddha always encouraged people to practice humility and let go of the ego. When you do so, you will notice positive changes in all aspects of life. 1. Inner peace. When you are no longer controlled by the ego, you will feel lighter and more at peace. Without competition, worry, or concern about how others see you, your mind will become still. 2. Better relationships. Humility helps you listen, understand, and build sincere relationships. When you no longer cling to the self, you will see that everyone is equal and deserving of love. 3. Development of wisdom and compassion. Letting go of the ego helps expand your wisdom and recognize the true nature of life. From there, you can cultivate compassion and live a more meaningful life. Letting go of the ego early to avoid wasting life. The more we hold on to the ego, the more we lose precious time in inner conflict and external contradictions. In contrast, humility helps us live harmoniously with others and everything around us. As the Buddha taught, there is no greater happiness than the happiness of a free mind. Let go of the ego starting today so that you don't waste any more precious time in life. Letting go is not losing, but opening a new door that leads to freedom, peace, and true happiness. 3. 3 steps to embrace humility. In Buddha's teachings, humility is not just a virtue but also a path to inner peace. The ego often clouds our minds, preventing us from recognizing the true value of life. Here are 3 practical and easy steps to embrace humility, helping you live more lightly and happily. 1. Awareness. Observe when the ego arises. Meaning. The first step in embracing humility is to become aware of when your ego arises. These are moments when you feel the urge to argue to defend your point of view, feel offended for not being recognized, or try to prove yourself, all clear signs of the ego. How to practice. Observe your emotions. When you feel anger, hurt, or the urge to compete, stop and ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? How important is this situation really? Practice mindfulness. The Buddha taught that living mindfully helps us recognize the impermanent nature of emotions and thoughts. Focus on your breath and observe your emotions as they come and go without attachment. Practical example. When someone criticizes you, instead of immediately reacting or defending yourself, quietly observe your thoughts. Remember that someone else's words do not define who you are. By doing this, you will not let the ego control your actions. 2. Practice gratitude, focus on what you have. Meaning. The ego often makes us feel incomplete, always longing for more and comparing ourselves to others. Practicing gratitude is an effective way to tame the ego and embrace humility, as it helps us recognize the valuable things we already have. How to practice. List what you're grateful for. Every day, take a few minutes to write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. It could be your health, family, work, or the small joys in life. Focus on the present, cherish what you have instead of chasing what you think you deserve. This helps you live more simply and reduces pressure from the ego. Buddha's teaching. Be content, for true wealth is not found in external things, but in inner satisfaction. Practical example. When you feel envious of someone else's success, remind yourself that you also have your own value, and that success is not the only source of happiness. Focus on the beautiful things already present in your life. 3. Learn to forgive. Forgive yourself and others. Meaning. The ego often causes us to hold on to grudges and self-blame, as it doesn't allow us to accept mistakes or shortcomings. Forgiveness is an act of letting go of emotional burdens, helping our souls become lighter and humbler. How to practice. Forgive others. Recognize that everyone makes mistakes. When you forgive, you free the other person from guilt and free yourself from resentment. Forgive yourself. The Buddha taught that self-blame doesn't solve the problem, but only adds to suffering. Face your mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. Buddha's teaching. Harboring resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. Letting go is the only path to peace. Practical example. If you've had a conflict with a friend, take the initiative to reach out and apologize or forgive. This will not only mend the relationship but also help you feel lighter. Embracing humility is not something you can do overnight, but rather a journey that requires patience and consistent practice. Awareness of the ego, practicing gratitude, and learning to forgive are 3 fundamental steps to overcoming the ego, opening your heart, and living a more meaningful life. Remember the Buddha's teaching. One who lives humbly understands that all things are impermanent, and the self is just an illusion. When you let go, you will find true peace. Conclusion. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. The journey of letting go of the ego and embracing humility brings not only inner peace but also helps us build sincere relationships and live a more meaningful life. Remember that every small step toward humility is a big leap on the path to true happiness. If you found this video helpful, please like, thumbs up, to support us, subscribe to the channel to not miss out on more meaningful content, and share this message with others. Don't forget to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, or your own journey in letting go of the ego. See you in the next video. Always remember, true peace begins within.